Hello and welcome to Hanratty on Karate. So I had a couple of comments from one of my podcasts I put out recently regarding Bunkai and kata analysis. And it was a good comment, and they asked if I could do a little bit more on it. But if you're trying to explain something as diverse as Bunkai and a kata, it's rather difficult. Well, the first thing you have to do is hope that the person you're explaining to knows the kata, right? And then they know which move that you're trying to put across your explanation for. Also the bunkai for it as well. Given all this in just a chat is extremely difficult. It's much more easier to show an example in a class, which is generally what I do. In fact, I just did a seminar last Saturday at the club, and we invited non-Shodan people in, and what I thought I'd do, they wanted to learn a Shodan kata. So I took our most Shodan style kata, which was Kanku Dai and Kanku Sho. We decided to do Kanku. Now, Kanku is pretty relevant throughout all of the styles. There's about 15 different styles of Kanku that I've seen, Matsumura and just Kusanku and all of these styles. They all have one version of it's kind of like Basai Dai. It's an ubiquitous kata that covers a myriad of styles. So they knew some of Kanku Sho. They didn't know any of Kanku Dai. And though there are some similarities, they're not that similar. So what we did with Kanku Dai is I started off in the morning and we did, it was supposed to be a 2-hour session, ended up being more like 2.5 to 3 hour session. And I do the kata the way I normally teach a kata for somebody who doesn't know. I'll go through the sequence roughly, just so that you can get an idea of it, and telling them what stances I want each technique performed in, how the technique, the line of the technique, how it moves from the floor up. And then once we've got the sequence of the kata, each move, and if you know Kanku Dai, there's 65 moves. So it's quite a long kata. But if you get the sequence right, what move follows what move, then we can move on from there. And that takes a while. So we did that, 35, 40 minutes, maybe more, 45 minutes, till everybody was comfortable that they knew what move followed what move. And then I didn't touch the timing, all right? I just said, well, this is normally a slow move, but slow moves don't mean a thing. They're just there to show power and balance and strength in the technique. You certainly wouldn't use it in a situation. There's no slow moves in a fight, okay? So then we looked at what we could possibly use each of the techniques for, or reverse engineer the movement to suit the application. And I got to stress, this is what if. If the guy does this, then I might be able to do this. You might not. You might be in a position where you can't move your arms as much as you want. You've got a restricted range of motion. You're against the wall, or you're in an alley, or whatever. And so you just have to go with whatever you're going to go with in real life. Also, the guy's probably not going to do exactly what you think he's going to do. It's like having an argument in your head. You're always going to win the argument because you think you're putting some great points forward. And then when you get into an argument, of course, the other person comes up with something entirely different you never thought of. That's what it's like being in a fight. Oh, it's not like that, but it's similar switch around. You don't know what's going to happen. So how you react is up to you. Often you don't know how you're going to react. You just know that you will. Okay? Or hope that you will. Trust that you will. And if you've trained hard enough, your reaction hopefully will be the best technique that you have for that given situation. And that's why you should always train your best, so that when something happens, you can give your best. All right? Not some half-hearted thing where, I'll kind of block this and then I'll punch him, and then you realize your block didn't work at all and he come right through you. When you're doing any technique, whether it's in the dojo or sparring or anything like that, you have to give your best. That's the only way that your opponent will be able to give his best. And he'll realize this pretty quick, that you're going at him as hard and as fast as you can, and he better up his game to meet that. That's the way that you train. That's the way that you get best out of you and best out of your partner. And hopefully that will be the way that you will respond in a situation where you actually need this kind of technique, whatever it is, whether it's block or whether it's an attack or whether you spotted his timing and you move first, which is always the best. So when you're looking at Bunkai and kata, almost all of it is kind of go no sen, right? Which means you receive the attack and then you act. There's not a lot in kata where it's sen no sen, where you react first. Most kata starts from a defensive position. There's not many that do start from an offensive position. You could argue that there is a couple of opening moves that could be offensive. One that comes to mind is in Heian Shodan, or Heian Shodan for the guys that were at our seminar who went from our style. And that is when you make the upper arm high one block, right, and the other hand is pulled back fist, so you're kind of standing there looking like an Egyptian hieroglyphic. But if you just extend that right hand fist forward as you're making the block, then you cut the guy in the mouth or nose or whatever. But you're certainly not made a defensive move, so it's kind of a defensive offensive technique all by one movement. Right? Similarly with the second movement, where you move your left hand across to block a second punch, but your right hand moves underneath also to make an offensive move. So you're going immediately from offense to defense. If you know the kata, it's not hard to visualize that in your mind. You block with your left hand, the punch goes in with the right. Then you block with your left hand again to the opposite side, punch comes underneath. Okay, finishes with Tetsuyuchi, hammer fist strike. And that's the theory, right? And it's all theory because hopefully the guy's going to try and attack you in that situation. So when you're looking at it, it's all what if. But it's fun to do these drills and to see how the techniques could work. I want to stress could work, because it doesn't necessarily follow that they will work in the situation, even in a given situation that you're training for. You know yourself, you try to practice Bunkai in the dojo and the guy just comes at you a little bit different and it doesn't work. Okay, so basically when I'm doing Bunkai, as I said before, I practice it from 3 different scenarios. From the classical scenario, exactly from the kata, and the other guy is attacking me in a nice classical manner where everything is extremely sequenced and we know what's going to happen, and it's pretty much orchestrated. It's all orchestrated so that you can get your ideas across of what the application may be for that particular movement. The second scenario I tend to look at, and this is a little better because I'm getting old and I don't drop into deep stances anymore, is more like from a freestyle point of view. So you've got your guard up, but you still make the same techniques. And this time you can make them from different angles if you want. So you can move off the line of attack or outside of the other person's attack, whatever. And that works quite good. And, we can do them by moving around, and it's quite the cardio exercise if you're doing it right. Then the third one is basically from a street fighter's position where the guy is just coming at you, and you have to try and make that technique from the kata work in whatever situation throws at you. And believe it or not, it's much easier to apply the basic Heian katas in that situation than it is to apply techniques from more advanced katas. Techniques from more advanced katas are effective. I'm not saying they're not effective. You tend to use a little bit different weapons. But if you're in a real situation and your adrenaline's flowing, the fine motor skills don't work, okay? You're not going to twist his arm this way and pull that way and all the rest of it. You're just going to use major big body movements, all right? So you're going to bring in probably some elbows, certainly the head, knees, all these nice short lever but very effective and very strong techniques that do a major amount of damage. And when you're in that kind of situation, these are what work. If you get grabbed or if you manage to get hold of somebody, psychologically you don't want to let go. So I discourage my people from grabbing. Now, not all people doing applications go in for the grab and put the guy in a headlock or put the guy in, an arm bar or something like this. That's not my style of fighting, never has been. I'm only a little guy. And I found you try putting 250 pound 6'4" guy in an arm bar, he'll just swing you around his head and splat you against the wall. So what I tend to run my applications to is more like strikes and punches, kicks, takedowns, and finishing blows, elbows, head, knees, whatever. Punches to good target areas, certainly strong target areas, side of neck, all the peripheral nervous point centers that you can certainly make a huge impact with. So that's what I tend to use for my techniques when I'm doing applications. I will do throws because I find being a small guy, my hips are generally lower than the person I'm fighting. And if my hips are lower, my center of gravity is lower, I can generally throw a lot easier. All I got to do is move him off his line of gravity, get underneath his center of gravity. I find the throws are quite easy. The other thing I've found out when I'm doing bunkai or applications, if you like, is the first kata you learn, try to learn the applications of it. Because so many people, they'll go through Heian Shodan 100 times, but they don't really look at what's happening. What can I do with this? How could I make this work? So if I just start from Heian Shodan and I do this with the person straight in front of me, he's always in front of me, okay? Because hopefully that's where your opponent is. If he's coming up behind you, you're in trouble, okay? So as he comes up, you're going to make a downward block as the first move against a grab. If he's punching your face, you better make a higher block. And then you step in, okay? And as you step in, the kata calls for you to step in with a punch. But if you miss the head and then smash your inside of your forearm against his neck, all right? Wind the hand around him, and then you can do the third movement in the kata, which is pull the front foot back and block down behind you. If you use that as a throw, it's quite effective, okay? Hopefully he's going to be off balance by the blow you've sent to the neck, all right? And also you've knocked him a little bit to his right side with the first block, and then follow up with the forearm smash to the side of the head. And not forearm smash, it'd be going to be inside of the forearm, all right? And then grab whatever you're going to grab, garments, hair, ear, whatever you want, all right? Pull strongly. You're going to be off balance, going to be a little bit disorientated if you've hit him hard enough. And let's face it, why wouldn't you hit him hard as you can? If you're going to hit him, don't mess around, don't annoy him, put him down if you can, okay? Then you throw. There's a throw. So basically you've got one little self-defense package right there. So you look at kata, it's like a bunch of little self-defense packages or envelopes, if you like. And the envelopes are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's the first envelope. We've opened that. We've blocked down. We've done a forearm smash past the side of the neck, grabbed him, threw him down. Okay? If you want to finish, you can finish with what you like. He's on the floor, you're standing up. Okay? You can do a stomp on his nose and pirouette around, whatever you want to do. Which is, incidentally, what I've done in a couple of street fights. The guy's gone down and I've managed to get a stomp. I twist as I stomp. Always the best thing, especially if it's on the face. Okay, anyway. From there, we open the next little packet. So attack's coming at you, and you block. I want to keep. Now, I know a lot of applications say, oh, somebody grabs your hand and you twist out of it and strike. Unless they grab you with two hands, the first thing you're going to do is punch them, let them keep hold of your hand. It doesn't matter. But twisting your hand out of somebody who's grabbing it's not really applicable. What you need to do is smash their hand out of the way using the back of your hand, bring it over your head and strike down immediately to the clavicle or the face. Clavicle's best because it's the easiest bone in the body to break. Okay, it's not attached to anything. It just sits there between your shoulder and your neck. So smash down, again, drive in, and this time with your left hand, hit the side of the neck, pull to the left at the same time, sweep their leg, and then you end up in Gadambarai to your left. So there's the first 5 movements, or if you like, from Heian Shodan. But they're all to a person that's in front of you. And if you just work these around, it'll start to give you other ideas of how you can do it. Now, generally, what I tell my students is, anytime you make a turn, drop your weight, spin as fast as you can. Dropping your weight, bringing your feet together and spinning fast certainly increases the speed of your turn. But also, if you regard every turn as a potential throw, then you're in the right place. Okay, why turn if you're not going to throw? And then, of course, you can open your next little envelope for the next movements of the kata. Now, sometimes you're going to get repetitive movements in a kata, and they're just repetitive. That's it. If you go from the Gedambarai in Heian Shodan, where you've just gone Gedambarai to your left, you come back on the Emberson, so you're facing the front, and then your next move would be 3 rising blocks or agiyukis. If you just did the one, then from blocking the arm, reach your hand behind his head, pull down on the opposite hand and spin, there's your throw. Okay? And then again, you can continue almost the same kind of application that you did on the first movement. So most katas are repetitive. Most katas tend to mirror each other on different sides of your body. And this is all well and good, and it's a lot easier to see what's happening with it. Okay? Now, as I said, it's extremely hard just to talk about applications and bunkai and oyo, if you like, the hidden techniques, because some katas just have independent blocks. You don't see what's going to happen next, all right? And that's all very well. You can put in what you like. I mean, if you were fighting, you wouldn't be thinking, okay, what comes next in this kata? You'd just naturally do what comes next. Now, what I wanted to get to was I see a lot of online karate. Now, if you're like me, during COVID, our club struggled, right? And people wanted to keep training. I have a very, very good student body. They wanted to keep training, and so I said, okay, I'll do online. I've got 2 computer screens in my office here, and I've got a nice hardwood floor. I can roll the carpet back, and we can go through basics and stuff like that, and even kata. But you cannot learn karate online, all right? Now, some people will say that you can, but they're usually the people that are making money off it. You can't learn karate online. It's like trying to learn to swim online. Right? The minute you throw you in the pool, you're going to sink, okay? Now, some people may get something out of it. Yeah, you may learn to doggy paddle, but you're not going to swim in the ocean by learning to swim online. And it's the same thing. An instructor should take a very personal interest in what he's teaching and who he's teaching it to. There are many ways of teaching, okay? You teach by example, you teach by lecture, you break things down, so you can do a whole technique, or you can break it down and you do it into like a links in a chain, and eventually you have a nice strong chain. Okay, so you do one part of it, next part of it, this is the center position, when you're going through this technique, and then this is the finish position, the start position. Everything has to be good. Now, unless you've got your face up and you're watching everybody on that screen, and very often you can't see the whole body, okay, because they're far back, or you've only got a short lens or whatever on the guy, you probably won't see their feet. You may not see all of the hands. You may not see how they're moving. You can't see if they're putting everything into the technique. So it's very hard to correct this. And if you are not correcting your students, you're doing them a disfavor. You're conning them, okay? You have to be able to take that person that you're teaching and go, say, 3 or 4 months down the road and show them what they've done, the advancements that they've made, how far they've come along, all right? The learning curve in karate is extremely steep at the start because you've got all this information coming at you and it's quite confusing. Probably got smoke coming out your ears sometimes. I know I did when I first started. It was just so much information. It was the same when I did a kata seminar to these people who hadn't done Shodan. It was a lot of information. But what you can do is show them. If you're there and you're correcting them and everything that they do wrong, we fix it right away and don't let it become a habit, then that's the way to teach. You've got to give your best as an instructor if you want the best out of your students. And it's a two-way street, of course. They've got to be willing to give their best as well. And we all know we've had the lazy students, we've had the mouthy students, we've had those who think they know it all anyway. And that's okay, You're always going to get these different kinds of people. People are always going to learn in a different way, all right? Some people are fine, they can just learn by listening to you, but not very often. Okay? Some people can just see what you're doing and then they'll do it. Not very often. Okay? You can show them once and then they'll do it. Not very often. It's going to take hours of practice, hours of concentration and repetition so that things are going to work out. And hopefully you'll get somebody who's proud of what they can do and you're proud that you taught them how to do it. And that's the whole thing about instructing. But this learning online thing, no. As I say, it's like learning how to swim from a book. The first time it comes along, like I've been in the forces and I'll tell you, this will happen under fire and that will happen under fire. And until you actually come under fire, believe me, it's a whole different bloody ball game. And it's exactly the same in a fight, all right? When you're in a confrontation out in the street where you're going to try and walk away from it, it's a whole different ball game than the dojo. And it's a whole different ball game than what you know. Ask any guys who've ever worked the door. And there's a lot of karate people that have worked the door, and I've got a lot of respect for them because what they do has to work for them. It has to work. And they don't always, and they'll be the first to tell you, they don't always use straight-out karate techniques. Karate will give you a lot of insights as to how your body moves and what you can do with it. But when it's for real, it's a whole different ball game. The mindset is entirely different. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. And I don't mind explaining applications to anybody who's interested. As I say, I got a nice feedback from a guy on Spotify, one of the podcast platforms that I use, asking for more application information. But as I said, it's like trying to teach karate online. It's extremely difficult. You got to be there. You got to be in it. You got to know the feeling. Take care. We'll talk to you again. Bye.